All right. All right. We've got Michelle back.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Kelly is gone.
Kelly is not here yet. Wait, is she calling you?
Um, no, it's just you and me this time. Let me see if I can add her back.
What is that noise? Oh my God.
I don't know.
It's really painful.
So I hear it coming from my speakers.
What is that?
Do you have a fan or something on your end?
I don't have anything going.
It's maybe it's static.
No, it's.
So I hear it coming from my speakers.
It sounds like the ring that it does sometimes when. Is she trying to call in separately?
No.
What is that noise? Oh my gosh. I'm adding Kelly again. Let's see if she answers. Hey!
She's not answering. All right. Then let's.
What else do you have running?
I don't have anything else running. There's static, but I don't know where it's coming from. Like I hear it coming from my speaker, but I don't have any fan, nothing's on.
It's not static. It's something. See, now it's stopped. Kelly, answer the phone. What is that? What is this video game noise I'm hearing?
Hello.
There you are.
There she is. Okay.
And now the noise is gone. All right, now stream the streaming thing. Go live.
We are live.
We're live right now?
We're live. We've been live.
Awesome. This is funny. I'm like a little kid. Can't be helped. No, hang on. It doesn't tell me that we're live though. Wait, I guess I need to refresh.
Yeah, that's what I gotta refresh.
Okay, I see Chris. I don't see Kelly.
So I'm.
I don't see Chris.
Where is?
There he is.
There we are.
And let's try to make me a little bigger.
No, you must decrease and Christ must increase.
Oh. All right, there we go. All right.
Now you were getting ready. Here's the deal. What they missed was Leah's little head peeping through over the books and commenting on how amazing your sauce is that I have not yet tried. And you were about to tell the story. And I said, hang on, don't tell the story yet.
Okay.
Tell it to the people.
So my grandma she just turned 81 on July 5th. That was her, she turned 81 years old. And she still thinks she's, a spring chicken. I mean, for 81, she gets around really well. Like, she still drives herself wherever she needs to go, goes to the doctor by herself, goes to church by herself. I mean, she still does everything on her own. But she thinks that she can still do, like, the physical farms and garden stuff like she could 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And remember, now see, I had told you this story, Michelle. I had told you this. But back in the last spring, I went to my grandma's, and of course my grandpa had died, so she needed to hire someone to mow the grass, right? And she had me come down, and she was worried about them nice, handsome men ruining their lawnmowers on the rocks. So she had me out there digging out all these, and I'm just laughing like it's funny, like it's no big deal to me. But because for them nice, handsome men, she had me digging up these rocks and sowing seed and all that. Well, down in that ditch, there's these bushes, and she wanted to get rid of them. And this is like the second or third time she's tried doing this, and she keeps falling. And this time, the other two times she didn't really hurt herself, but this time she kind of bruised her tailbone a bit. And I said, Grandma, you don't need to be doing that. And she goes, I know, Jesus is telling me, it's a warning, not to be pulling up and cutting no bushes. Jesus is telling me next time it's a hip. That's what Grandma said. Next time it's a hip.
I remember when you told me that. I laughed when you told me.
Oh,
She had some spunk like my grandmother.
That's awesome.
Oh, I'm telling you what, my grandma, she's funny. She is funny.
Can we get your grandma on the show?
But probably not. I mean, I don't even get cell signal at her house. I mean, she's at an old farmhouse. She doesn't have internet.
You could do a video.
Yeah.
I could maybe.
An interview your grandmother.
You know what? I probably could interview. That is a wonderful idea. I couldn't.
I'm chock full of them.
I couldn't live stream my grandma, but I could record. Maybe. We'll see.
We did that with Eric's mom and dad.
See?
My
I
grandma,
wanted to do it with Grandma
yeah.
Marilyn, but she's sick. I wanted to wait until she was well enough, and then it never materialized. Do it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
I need to.
So that's a really good story.
I need to
Hey,
get
you were
down there and go to mass with her.
Talking about the sauce, and we were talking about the pressure, about the pressure
Christopher
weight
Stewart.
on the top when he was canning. What did you almost do that your grandmother yelled at you?
So it was. I'd just taken it off the heat. I had turned. We're doing it on a gas stove, and I just turned the heat off, and I moved it over on the other burner, the cold burner. I didn't really need to, but I did. And I went to take it off, and Grandma was like, "No, you're gonna blow us up."
Does she really have an accent, though? You guys are from Indiana.
So now Perry County, Indiana, is right on the Ohio River, and I'm telling you, we're more like Kentucky than we are Indiana.
You have an accent.
I do.
Kellie does not.
Because she's a Yankee in Pennsylvania.
Right.
That's right.
But Kellie uses that are more country.
Yeah.
More hickified, like
So-
Stevens Hutton, that you made the comment.
So my accent comes and goes, right? I mean, you see that. You watch my videos, you see sometimes I don't even have an accent at all, and and I don't really have any much control over it. But if I'm talking to somebody who's also country, it comes out. Or if I'm talking about country stuff or hunting or whatever, like, it'll come out. And sometimes it's real thick, and sometimes not so bad. And not even everybody in Perry County even talks that way. but I mean, my grandma sometimes she'll say tomorrow like tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I like
Go
that.
to tomorrow, and days of the week is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's cute.
I even say that sometimes. Well, it's gonna be Wednesday.
That's thick.
That's
Pretty
country.
thick.
That's country. Oh my goodness.
All right, so I'm going to go and eat Mama Q's spaghetti sauce,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys are going to continue.
Okay.
I'm going to give Kansas a haircut, and I'm going to take you with me, but not with me. I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
We
All right.
will take the video with me.
I
I'm not
will.
going
God
to eat in
bless.
front of people. I'm just not going to do that. Not because I'm self-conscious about eating in front of people, but because, frankly, it wouldn't be fair for me to eat in front of everyone this delicious sauce that Sergeant Holman made and sent to the resistance chicks.
Yeah. All right.
So
Well,
I have early morning tomorrow.
okay.
Good night, you all. Thank you for having me.
We'll be
Chris,
praying
I love
for
you
you.
all.
God,
Thank you,
We'll be
Kelly.
praying. Love you.
God bless, Commander. Thanks for coming. All right. Starting to get the itch on this beard, Kelly.
I can tell. You definitely tell. You were itching earlier. It's just getting out to that length where you want to shave it. It's not past the point of where you don't want to
Yeah. If I let
shave
it grow,
it.
if I let it grow just a little bit more, it'll get past that point. But
You need about 3 more days, maybe 4.
mhm.
I don't know. You don't seem to grow very fast.
So this has been growing. This is like 2 weeks.
Uh,
More like a week and a half, I guess.
Okay, then you've got a good week that you got to go. Yeah.
So, but I don't ever really let my beard get too big. So they're saying that you are echoing,
That's
and
Okay, I'm gonna.
so how's that? Can you all still hear us? I may have took out the echo. Can you all still hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Well,
Let us know. Kelly 1, Chris 2. Yeah, I'm putting myself as number 1 since nobody can see me.
Kelly is also echoing. Let's see what we got. For me to
Michelle says that it sounds good.
Okay.
And I have a really expensive gaming headset on. I'm hoping that.
On my end, you sound great. Like, you sound
Awesome.
really good. I don't know how you sound to them, but on my end, through my speakers, you sound great. So, sound is good to me. Okay.
Okay, I'm on top.
Says Michelle echoes, Chris is quiet, Kelly is fine. All right.
Chris, you're breaking. I don't know if it's because you're moving back and forth away from the mic.
All right.
You're breaking up just a little bit.
Breaking up. Well.
It's not real bad. It sounds good, but it's just once in a blue moon, there's like a crack here and there.
Right.
And it could be in a cord.
Mm-hmm.
You never know because of the cords you got.
Right.
It could be any.
I don't know. I mean, my microphone is right in front of me, like it's right here, and the cords are fine.
Yeah, you sound fine now. I mean, you sound fine sitting up there, but when you were sitting back, you were broke up slightly.
Oh yeah, okay. I just gotta stay right here, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any stories you want to share with our audience?
Mine are all sad stories.
You don't have any funny stories from your life? Come on now. I know you got a funny story somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I do have some funny stories, but some of my funny stories might make some people sit there and think I'm really redneck.
Getting started on homesteading says it's starting to sound good. Good deal. We're going to go over to a video here in a minute. But Kelly, come on, tell us a funny story. Make us laugh. Come on.
Oh, my. Really? Okay, I will tell you one story, and yes, I was a bad young lady when I was younger, when I had my Jeep. I had a Jeep pickup, 1988. Last year they made it.
Uh-huh.
And I had a deer that ran out in front of me, and I hit it. Well, it decided it was going to take its own way. Well, it messed up the front of my truck, so it made me mad. So I said, if you're going to do this, then you're going to be mine.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go through the farmer's cornfield to go get it.
Ah.
And I just didn't do it on foot.
Oh. You went driving through his cornfield with your Jeep?
And it was kicking at my bumper as I was going to get it.
Wait a minute, you were chasing a deer with the Jeep?
Yep.
Well, Kelly, come on.
It messed my truck up.
So, I'm going to tell you in Perry County, there are two favorite things for teenagers to do on a Friday or Saturday night. Cornfield parties, right? Tailgate party out in the cornfield after been harvested, whatever, right? Or, out in the country somewhere, just everybody just getting drunk, whatever, campfires, all that stuff. Or possum beating.
Oh, possum stomping. I've done possum stomping like you wouldn't.
Oh, this is awful. I actually never did this. So what they do is they go out, a bunch of guys, they go out there with clubs and flashlights out in the woods, so they find a possum. When you put a flashlight in the eyes of a possum, it'll freeze up. And then everybody gets close and beats the possum to death. And then they'll tie it to the tailgate of somebody's truck, drag it around Leopold and St. Croix, and
well, we didn't do that. We ran out in the fields. Because we had spotlights and we would shine it, and they'd start to move, and somebody'd run out there, and all of a sudden they'd slow down, they'd curl up and act like they were dead, like they were playing possum. Mm-hmm. And of course, somebody unfortunately stomped on them.
Yeah.
And
so
that was it.
So Michelle says this is horrific. It is. Like I never did.
It is.
I never went possum beating. I never did this.
That's a hick thing.
These are all country farm boys. I mean, it's getting drunk or possum beating. That's what the guys. I never did it. Honest to God, I never went possum beating. That wasn't my thing.
I didn't. I held the spotlight. I held the spotlight. Everybody, the guys did it.
Well. Yep. That Hilton says that's cruel. It is cruel. But that's what they do. I mean, we're talking.
Back in the day, that's what they did. What else?
Remember what I told you about teenagers being psychotic?
Game systems.
Teenagers are psychotic, and they don't have this. Their mind they don't have the same value of life as like adults, right? And so to a teenage boy, right? Grew up on a farm or out in the country, and there's absolutely nothing to do. Well, I guess there is a third thing to do: make babies. I guess. That's it. Drink, make babies, and possum beating. That's it. And So that's what they do.
But I mean, those are some of the. We went spotting, or we would go cornfield hopping, which we called chasing deer in the cornfields.
Mm-hmm.
We just chase them just for the fun of it, but.
Or mudding, going mudding.
Not hurt them, but that one I had to go after because she had a broken leg, and it was like I had to get her, but I wasn't going to chase her with my own 2 feet.
Right. So people would go mudding, but I mean, everybody knows everybody there, and to go mudding, you'd have to go in somebody's field if it ain't your own, right? So mudding wasn't something that was
somebody you really knew that didn't mind.
Right. Mudding wasn't really a big thing growing up in Perry County when I was there, because I mean, everybody was a farmer, right? You're gonna have to go into somebody's field, and they're not gonna be too happy, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
But mudding was something that was done. It just not very common.
Had what was called a mud pit. Mm-hmm. We used to have it was a cornfield mud pit in the fall, and you've probably if anybody's ever watched any videos on YouTube, they've seen where 4-wheel drives have gone through, these great big mud pits and everything. Mm-hmm. We've had an annual mud pit, 4-wheel drive mud pitting in our area, and we never know where it's at until 2 days before, and it's only passed around verbally where it's going to be held. Right. And then they make the pit, and they get it all swampy, filled up with water, and then they've got vehicles there and chains and come-alongs and everything. Right. And also that they can sit there and get these vehicles out of these. Right. I did do the mud pitting.
So, here, let me get this. Go to the chat here. Mass Faith says, so I have to tell you the truth. I've been hearing about this sauce for months. I didn't actually believe that it was going to be as good as you said it was. Getting started on homesteading says, opossum lives matter too. Mass Faith says, it's every bit as good and so much more. It's better than mine. Hilton says, don't kill it if you ain't going to eat it unless it's a pest. Are they pests? So possums, I mean, they can be pests.
And you can eat them. Because I've had possum, I've had woodchuck, I've had raccoon, I've had beaver.
You can eat them, but these boys didn't eat them. They just went out, found them, beat them to death, and tied them to the hitch in the back of their truck and drug them around Leopold. We're talking towns that don't even have stoplights or stop signs. Little bitty, like.
Oh my.
Yeah. So
no, we didn't do that.
When I talk about Leopold and St. Croix, like it's one road in, one road out. There ain't nothing really there. Mount Pleasant, that ain't. There ain't even anything in Mount Pleasant. There used to be a general store, and it ain't there. The town signs are still up, but there is no Mount Pleasant. Maya says, had a phone call. Wow. What did I miss?
That's sad to see these old towns.
I mean, I remember going to the Mount Pleasant General Store when I was a kid. It's about 1.5 miles from my grandpa's house there on the farm. And my great-grandma and grandpa's house was on the way. I mean, you could see my great-grandma and grandpa's house from my grandma and grandpa's house. That my great-grandparents' house was, my great-grandma was born and raised there. My grandma was born and raised there. Actually, my great-grandmother's mother was born and raised there. We're going back to like the 1900s or late 19th century. That farm and farmhouse had been in the family for generations, and it seemed to always pass from daughter or mother to daughter. That particular farm and farmhouse.
Oh wow. That's interesting.
My grandma sold it.
I have a story here.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I was about 4 years old, And my daddy put me up on the tractor because we didn't have enough farm help in the farm that we lived on.
Wait a minute. You were driving a tractor at 4.
Put my hands.
Hold on. Stop for a minute. You're driving a tractor at 4.
4 years not sitting. I could not sit.
Okay.
I had to stand.
Okay.
And I got my hands on the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. And my dad said, keep it straight, watching these bales, and don't run over a bale. Mm-hmm. And my daddy put me up on there, and he jumped off, and he had it in granny gear. Mm-hmm. And he was throwing hay up on the wagon.
Right.
And I remember old Freddie coming up there and jumping up on the tractor and grabbing me, put me up on his lap. And I didn't know him at the time. And he had this scruffy kind of beard, salt and pepper. And it was real short, stubbly. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting on his lap, scared to death, because he was ready to make. They're ready to make a turn. Mm-hmm. And went and did that. And that evening, came back, and my mom and my dad were doing some things. And my aunt had paddled me, and because I'd gotten in trouble, and I got mad at her, and I said, "I'm running away." And I remember looking out my bedroom window, and I could see my grandma's place. So I went across the field, got halfway across the field before I got caught by my aunt. Of course, I got my tail end smacked again, but I thought I could make it to my grandma's. Now, okay, looking as far as I did, I said, for me being 4 years old, that's a long ways to go, but I'm going to grandma's house. Well, that was maybe a block. and I decided I was going to run away and I was going to stay with grandma. Right. So those are some of the funny old stories that, I did when I was little. Yeah. I was a handful for my mom, but I was daddy's girl.
I've always had what my grandma calls the gift of gab. My whole life. Like, as soon as I could talk.
Me too.
That's all I did. Like, so most people have a first word. My mama tells me that I didn't have a first word, I had a first sentence. My air conditioning just kicked on. Let me know if you can hear that. So anyway, I had a first word, and it was, I went from saying nothing, just gibberish, to "Mommy, I want to go to." That was the first thing I ever said. It wasn't mama, it wasn't dad or daddy or dada. It was "Mama, I want to go to," or "Mommy, I want to go to." That was the first thing I ever said. Had a first sentence. And growing up as a little boy, I mean, we're talking, 3, 4, 5 years old, I would make up all these crazy stories. So they weren't like me telling stories like, oh, so there I was down the street. This was like, so the aliens are coming, or like I made up this whole fictional thing. Like I'm not even kidding. I was E.T.'s father. Now, this is back in the 80s, right? So the movie E.T. and all that. That I was E.T.'s father, and my real name was Shoelace. So this was a story I came up with when I was like 5. But I would tell all these stories about, like, gunslingers. Like, I'm telling some old cowboy story, but I just made it up. And I just, like, I'd get up talking, I wake up talking, and I'd talk until I went to sleep. Like, if I was awake, I was talking. I was just a little jabberwocky the whole time as a little boy. That's all I did was talk.
Kind of sounds like my son, Steven. Steven's that way. My oldest boy, though, was the one that talked the first, the earliest, too.
Yeah.
He he was only 3 months old, and he was able to say sentences outward. But Steven, no.
Getting started on homesteading says, I'm only 51 and from Kentucky, and we did not have I'll say crapper until I was 14. So, I don't know what part of Kentucky that is. So, Perry County...
Was it a single or a double stall outhouse?
Perry County is right on the Ohio River, And where that's at in Indiana in comparison to Kentucky is between Owensboro, like just about right in the middle between Owensboro and Louisville. I mean, it takes probably 45 minutes to get to Owensboro, and it takes about 50 minutes to get to Louisville. But you have to get on the interstate to get to Louisville. But anyway, I could see that in maybe parts of eastern Kentucky. You get down to like say Mount Sterling, or Frenchburg, or London, or Paris, Kentucky. You get down in that way. I could definitely see even some places still having outhouses. Maya says, "Didn't know you were a storyteller, Chris. That should have been a midnight confession." Yeah, Maya. I've told you this one, Maya. Come on now. You know this. She says it was a single, but we had a bucket. Yeah. Outhouses. I never lived in a house, growing up that had an outhouse. I mean, I've used an outhouse, but it wasn't mine.
We can't. Well, the church that we turned into a camp,
Yeah.
that had an outhouse, and
She says she's in Western Kentucky.
I used an outhouse, and we had an outhouse where the house that I live at. We had an
Yeah.
outhouse, and we also had a chamber pot too.
So Massface says, "Gotta go give Kansas a haircut. I'm bowing out, y'all. The sauce is gone. Sergeant Chris wins the spaghetti sauce contest. Mama Q's for the win. Night, guys. Love y'all." Good night, Massfaith. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Glad you enjoyed the sauce. Let me know.
Thank
when you
you
want
for your
some
help.
more. Let me know when you want some more. I'll cook up another batch. Good night, Michelle.
Night.
So, Maya, I told that story. Does that count as my midnight confession, Maya? Or do I have to come up with another one?
That's funny. I've done some. I lived a real country life, so my country stuff is
Right.
kind of crazy.
So I kind of, growing up, okay, so I was about 10 years old when we moved back here from Phoenix. So I actually lived in Phoenix till I was like 10, but after that, it was either a small town or a farm or on a homestead for a few years. My mom and stepdad had I call it a homestead, but it wasn't like, so like we didn't have a garden or anything like that, but we had horses and chickens, but it wasn't big enough to call it a horse farm either. You know what I mean?
Oh my, we did.
So
We had over 12 horses here, and some of them were boarders, and some of them were our own, and
yeah.
breeding and selling, and
Mm-hmm.
between that and goats.
Right. Oh, I had a goat. I did have a goat. I had to milk. I had stomach problems in junior high. It's a big long story I ain't gonna get into, but I had a goat. Junior high.
That's what my son was raised on, was goat milk, my first one.
So Maya says I have to come up with another one for my midnight confession. Well, what if I don't want to, Maya? I don't want to. Muhlenberg County, Kentucky.
Hey,
How
Chris,
far is
can I
that?
interrupt for just a minute? I'm going to mute. I'm going to be right back.
All right. So Muhlenberg,
Okay.
how far away is that from? It's actually the largest county in Kentucky, Henderson. How far is it away from Henderson, Kentucky?
I'm muted, right? Am I muted?
No, I can hear you.
Okay,
She
hold
says,
on.
"Then we are no longer friends." Just kidding, just kidding. Muhlenberg County. I'm not entirely sure. I know where Davies County, Kentucky is. Like that's far west. Say 30 miles from Henderson. Okay. So then you would know Evansville, Indiana. I mean, it's just across the river from Henderson, Kentucky. I used to live in Evansville as an adult. Actually, lived quite a while in the Evansville area. Yeah. You were born in Evansville? Holy moly. Holy moly. It was, I bet you it was the old Wellburn Hospital. If you were born, at your age, if you were born in Evansville, I bet you it was the old Wellburn Hospital. Which is right now it's called Riverwalk. It's a place where it's kind of like an assisted living place. Good old Evansville. Holy moly. Yep. I tell you, I don't know if I've said this on a stream before, but I know I've said this. I know I've told Kelly this, and I've told Michelle this, and I've told Maya this. I've told my friends this, my family this. You know, I've been all over the country. I've been outside of the country. I've been to Europe, and I've been to Asia. You know, there's really no place else I'd rather live than right here in the Ohio River Valley. That doesn't mean, you know, the exact town I'm living in. Hey, Kelly. I was just saying where I've lived on the east side until 3 years old. Huh. So, yeah, there's no place else I'd rather live than right here in the Ohio River Valley, here in southern Indiana. I mean, it's not to mean that I wouldn't live somewhere else, but I just think this is just God's country right here. Whether it's on the Kentucky side or the Indiana side, the Ohio River Valley is just, I mean.
Now, how's your tornado area? Are you in that zone?
Yeah, we get tornadoes. I mean, we don't get a lot of them, but we get tornadoes probably every year. We'll at least get a tornado watch. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we get tornado watches and warnings, but we don't get, you know, like what they have Tornado Valley has.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we're actually, I think, considered part of Tornado Alley, like just on the edge of it. But yeah,
that's why I asked.
Yeah, we get tornadoes. We get them. But the temperature-wise, as far as the climate here in the Ohio River Valley, the hottest temperatures you'll see in the summertime is, you know, in the 90s. I've seen it this summer. I think it got up as high as like 97, 98, around in there was the hottest. But typically you're going to be around 90 to 95 at the hottest. Average temperatures in the summertime will be in the mid to late 80s, or mid to upper 80s, would be your average temperature for the whole summer. Winter times, it will have, it kind of goes back and forth, you know. If you don't like the weather, you just wait a little while, it'll change, you know. And in the winter time, you'll have a little bit here and there. It'll be real cold, and then it'll warm up. For the last several years, our winters have been really temperate, like not real harsh, not really. We'll have sometimes around like late December into January, it'll be really cold for maybe a couple weeks, and then maybe 1 or 2 more times it'll get really cold. But the rest of the time, you're looking at like upper 30s, 40s, maybe even into the 50s for highs. So it's not real bad. It's not real bad. And when we get snow, it's not even that much. Every once in a while we'll get a heavy snow, but we haven't really had a heavy snow here in southern Indiana in several years.
Wow. We've had because we're right at the base of the snowbelt area. And I mean, literally, if you drive, one highway over,
Yeah.
it's like you go into a different time zone. It's in like in a total different country, it
Yeah.
seems like. But when our weather gets so hot here
Yeah.
to us, which if we hit 92 degrees, we're melting.
Right.
But we're normally you know, in the 80, 83. But our winters, we've had them like 14, 16 below zero.
Yeah.
And we get, at one time we can get 2 to 3 feet of snow
Yeah.
where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. And we had 2 really bad snowstorms, one in the 70s and one in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And the one was so bad that they actually had
Yeah.
graders out that were grading, and then the snow blowers were going by and they were picking up what was left and they were blowing it over top of. And I remember going out and feeding my dog,
Right.
and the snowbank was taller than me, and I'm 5'1" and it was over top of me.
Right. Well, in 1978, there was a blizzard that came through here. It was bad. Like, it was real bad. And then I'm sure there was some heavy snows in the 80s, but there wasn't another blizzard until 1996. So it was like 18 years later. Like, I mean, we're talking, it was February, like late January, sometime into February 1978. And in 1996, it was that same time of year. In the beginning of the year, where they had this.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with my grandparents in '96 when that blizzard came through, and now mind you, we're rural. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and so we were without electricity for like 2 weeks. Like, for 2 weeks, we didn't go to school, and I mean, we had a wood stove and a gas stove, and like, so I mean, it wasn't like we didn't have heat and we couldn't eat, but it wasn't nothing to do. But just sit around and talk, which was all right, I guess. But when you're in your, what was I, 17? When I was 17 at the time. I mean, the phones were out.
Yeah.
Couldn't talk to my friends. Couldn't talk to the ladies, young ladies. Basically, just you're going to bed early every night, really early.
Trying to sleep in as much as you could.
I tell you, I look back at that time living with my grandparents, and I should have enjoyed that time a lot more than I did. Like, I didn't really appreciate, not nearly as much as I should have, that time with my grandparents. And I look back at it now, and that was the best time of my childhood. That was the best. Living with my grandparents.
Yeah, I always say that about my dad, because with me losing my dad when I was 18 years old,
Yeah.
just prior to me getting married, I was going to be 19 almost, literally within just less than a month. And my time with my dad was just so precious that, I was always with my dad. My dad taught me everything.
Yeah.
Farming. He used to he'd be milking the cows by hand, and he'd squirt me with milk, and
Yeah.
he'd always do funny things. If I was laying on the couch and didn't want to move, he'd sit on top of me and take his old 5 o'clock shadow that might have been a 2 o'clock shadow, because his whiskers grew so fast. He'd give me an old whisker burn.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to move.
Maya says it's 80 degrees right now. Now Maya's down in Louisiana. That's how you pronounce it down there anyway, right? Louisiana, something like that.
Louisiana, or is it Louisiana?
Anyway, May is down in Louisiana. So is that a cold front for this time of year, man? 80 degrees. Oh boy, I've been to Louisiana twice. One was in the summertime, one was in the wintertime. But I was there with the military. I was there at Fort Polk. Ah, La Resistance is here.
La Resistance is here. Yeah, since you put a
passes
link in
bill.
there.
California passes bill goods and services that violates the rights of homosexual trans community, i.e. Bible. And there's a link to a YouTube video. Let's see what we got.
Yeah.
We'll go to solo video here.
But absolutely fabulous by choice.
Assembly Bill 2943 by Assemblymember Lowe, an act relating to unlawful business practices.
Shrink us down.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, today I rise to present Assembly Bill 2943 by Assemblymember Lowe. This critically important bill protects LGBT people from the fraudulent practice known as conversion therapy. These efforts, also known as reparative therapy or other names, are a fraudulent business practice where people sell services and say, if you pay me money, I can make you no longer LGBT. There is absolutely no medical or scientific basis to support the sale of these supposed healthcare or psychological services. Indeed, conversion therapy is nothing short of psychological torture. And that is why the state of California has banned conversion therapy for people under the age of 18, to say we're not going to torture our LGBT children.
It's good, Chris.
To change them, quote unquote. And so this bill, very simple.
Yes, May I just said.
Volume's good on the video.
I mute myself.
Services that don't work and that simply harm LGBT people. I want to be very clear. Too many LGBT people, particularly children, are committing suicide. And this happens, this unacceptable rate of suicide happens because we are told by society that there is something wrong or sick or amiss about who we are and that we need to change.
I'm sorry, you can live your life the way you want to be, but I'm not going to deny the fact that there is something wrong. It's not natural. I'm sorry. I mean, it is what it is. It's unnatural. I mean, live your life the way you want. You want to live in perversion? That's all you. You got the freedom and rights to do that. Don't you ever expect me to condone and accept perversion as normal. It ain't happening.
Change to be quote unquote normal. What we don't need to change, and we certainly shouldn't allow people to commit fraud by selling services that harm people and that don't work. I want to be very clear what AB 2943 does not do, contrary to some of the claims that have been made during this legislative process. This bill does not prohibit the sale of the Bible. It's an argument that we've heard that's untrue. It does not in any way prohibit free speech. It doesn't prohibit anyone from speaking with a counselor, including a religious counselor, regarding their sexual orientation, as long as no money is exchanged, as long as no services are sold. Colleagues, this bill is long overdue. We should be protecting people from fraud. It's what we do in this legislature, in this state, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. Senator Anderson.
Senators, I was in Judiciary. We had a very robust, a huge discussion on this with many, many witnesses. And the one thing that struck me was if I had difficulty with my sexuality and I chose to seek out somebody to help me, counsel me through changing my sexual orientation, I could do that, and it's perfectly legal. But the notion that somebody who perhaps started gay can't seek out the same help. Now, I started out as heterosexual, but if I wanted to become homosexual or anything else, I could get that help. Now, we're not talking about people under 18. We're talking about adults. And we're not talking about con artists driving up and down our street with loudspeakers saying, hey, conversion therapy here. We're talking about adults seeking help because they're questioning. And because they're questioning to be straight, that somehow that's wrong and evil. But if they question to be gay, that's good and acceptable. You can't have it both ways. Now, I've never experienced it. I've never gone through it. And I think any time that you have anything that you question in your life, it's got to be exceptionally painful and difficult. And I don't want to make it more difficult for those who are seeking the help that they desire. At any time that they're not forced to go through this, at any time they can say, this isn't helping me, I'm going to seek something else. But when we had hundreds of people come forward and speak to me and say it helped them, I don't want to deny them that access to help. And that's what we're doing today with this bill. Under the ruse of protecting people, we're not cutting it off on both ways. We're only saying the only help that you can get is to leave a straight lifestyle to join another lifestyle. But if you want to return to a state or move to a straight lifestyle, then that's evil. And I believe that's just inconsistent. But I certainly understand. I haven't walked in those shoes. And my heart goes out to all those folks in conflict. And I want to give them the most resources possible so that they can be confident and happy in their life. And this bill will strip them of that ability. Remember, this is only for adults. They're all opting in. Nobody's recruiting them. No one's holding them against their will. No one's forcing them to go through torture. They're requesting it. And what we're saying is you don't have a right to get health care help. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator.
Wow. Yes, it is. We need to pray hard for the Lord on our knees, face down. Hmm.
All right. So I guess. Hold on a minute. Let me be right back. Kelly, you want to take over for a minute?
Sure. Anybody, throw up some questions, you guys, if you have any questions up there.
I were mostly just shooting the breeze.
You go ahead. I know what you need. I know what you need.
Yeah, anything
I know what you
y'all
need to
want
do.
to ask. Anything y'all want to ask,
I know what you need. Go ahead. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you guys hung around and tolerated our audio issues and having Michelle from Resistance check on here. She was really helping us try to get some things squared away with our audio. But is there any questions that anybody has that's on here? I noticed that there is 6 on here, so you can ask me some personal questions, not so long as they're too personal. If you have a question. Yes, we do have to pray. Yes, that all eyes are to be open. We need to be on our face before the Lord, asking that we have guidance through the Lord. That is so true, that eyes need to definitely be opened.
Yep. All right, I'm back. Yep. We do need to pray for eyes to be open. So, I've known quite a few people in my life that were gay. I've had friends that were gay. It's okay. I mean, they don't need me to condone their lifestyle to validate themselves as a person, right? They don't need that.
That's right.
And
that's right. I got an adopted daughter that's that way.
Right. So, like, are you a good person? Is the way I look at it, right? Are you a good person?
Exactly.
The quality of your character. Okay, there you go. It doesn't mean I'm going to condone your lifestyle. It doesn't mean I want to hear about it. But, if I can be your friend. I've had some tell me, no, for them, they were just born that way. And I've had others tell me that, no, it's a choice. So, and in many instances, it's an issue of, there was some kind of trauma as a child.
I think they say it's only like 0.2% of people that actually feel that they are homosexual oriented, that it's due to a genetic disorder.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, every single gay man I've ever talked to has told me that there's no such thing as a bisexual man. That they're either all gay or they're all straight, but if they're bisexual, they are just experimenting. They're either too scared to go full on gay, or they're trying to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yep. I've heard that too.
Every single gay man I've ever talked to has told me there's no such thing as a bisexual man. You're either gay or straight.
I've heard that too.
And now I've also had gay men tell me that to them it's a game. Like it's something they do for fun, to meet straight men and bring them over to. And I'm telling you, this guy, he told me, he was my friend for a very long time. He said, I love finding straight men and bringing them over to the brown side, is what he'd say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Yeah. Convert them over to the brown side.
Yeah, I live in the country. No, I've not heard that before.
Well, I mean,
we're man and woman. It's man and woman here.
Yeah, well, I mean, where I live right now, I mean, I live in this huge apartment complex in town, and in a city. I mean, it's a heavily populated area. 10% of of the population here is Hispanic. Actually, I'm not even kidding. This isn't the southwestern United States. This is, you know, the Louisville, Kentucky area on the Indiana side of the river. And I mean, I've heard gunshots go off in this apartment complex just this summer. I mean, I don't necessarily live in the best place to live right now. This particular neighborhood, and you wouldn't think this just if you didn't live here and you're just driving through on, you know, I'll say Green Tree Boulevard or Veterans Parkway or Lewis and Clark Parkway, like whatever, like you wouldn't think this is the case, but this neighborhood, pizza delivery, they won't deliver pizzas after dark. There's a neighbor just across the way this summer. His place got broke into and he got robbed 4 times in the span of just a few weeks. 4 times.
Oh my! Wow.
Now I mean the people knew they were robbing him. He knew he didn't know who they were, but he knew them and they knew him, because every time he'd finally get his stuff replaced, it wasn't long after that and he'd get robbed again.
But was he living a lifestyle of
Well,
alternative?
No, not this guy. No. So he's a young guy. He's a young kid, right? And I mean, we're talking early 20s. Works 3rd shift at a factory, and he's still in that mindset of, you know, hanging out with, you know, the wrong kind of kids, you know, the wrong kind of friends. We're talking guys that do drugs and drink and do criminal behavior.
That's why.
Even though he himself isn't a criminal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he doesn't really do drugs, but he just hangs out with those kind of kids. And I think he's finally realized what was going on, and that's changed. Law vs. Stone says they often get the other man really drunk or stoned or both. Yeah. So up until just like a couple months
That or they
ago,
slip him some kind of a Mickey or something.
right. So and then they'll you don't want to go, you go to a gay bar, the guys that get drunk, they get really handsy and they don't take no for an answer. At least the ones around here. But my next door neighbor, who he got evicted towards like the beginning of July, the end of June, somewhere around in there. Well, anyway, he was gay, like gay. And
Yeah, you told me something
yeah,
about that.
He would tell me stuff. I was like, oh my God. And he's one of them that told me. He was telling me about, you know, how they love finding straight men and bringing them over. He was the one that told me that. Bringing them over to the brown side, he said. You know.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, that's just as wrong as, you know, taking a straight guy out and getting him drunk and then taking advantage of him. That's no different than taking a woman out and getting them drunk or stoned and taking advantage of them. It's the same thing.
I mean, this is something more so that we can, and this could give the 7 that are watching an opportunity to think about some questions, because they look at women in a provocative way as being woman on woman, being okay, but a lot of people look at, you know, man on man, which both are wrong. It's not right in God's eyes. It's not right in my eyes. I don't believe in it. But to look at that, they sit there and they really hit hard a lot of times on the men, and they will come up, but yet they have no problem with women. Now that's something we can talk about tomorrow during our live stream, because we are going to be covering some issues of stuff, but some things that you guys might want to think of, some questions, because it's good, and it might turn into a pretty deep subject. We don't want to get into the subject right now, but it is some things that I'm asking, just think of some questions because that is a subject that we're going to be going into, like sexual abuse and things that go on,
So,
along with some other stuff, local stuff.
so what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, I don't think I talked to you about this, Kelly. So, and this is going to be really easy to set up. Mass Faith 3 kind of went over this a little bit, but we're going to do a whole stream on it. Is the sex abuse scandal that just broke yesterday.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania here.
In Pennsylvania, but we're going to talk about the church as a whole. Now, mind you, I'm a Catholic, right? And it's time to clean house. This is
That's
unacceptable. Right. And there's a fact about the Catholic Church that we're going to talk about tomorrow. That the authorities need to know, and they'll be able to root out all of this. They just need to do it. They'll be able to root it all out. Now, I will say this, not everything that happens in every diocese, in fact, just about nothing that happens in a specific diocese is in any way really controlled by the Vatican, right? So the Vatican puts out,
right.
The Vatican puts out their, there might be a papal bull, or there might be some kind of, direction, or something given from the Vatican. But for the most part, every parish is run by the diocese, and then the dioceses are run by an archdiocese. And then here in the United States, and just like in every country that has a Catholic presence, here in the United States, all Catholic dioceses are ran by the American Council of Catholic Bishops, right? So they're the ones who really run the Catholic Church here in the United States. So now I will say this, that there is sexual abuse that happens in every denomination. It happens in every institution. The difference with the Catholic Church is that because there is celibacy in the Catholic Church, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow.
Yep.
What the difference with the Catholic Church is because priests are expected to be celibate, and they have never barred homosexuals from serving as priests, because it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight, celibacy is celibacy, right? And it's the idea, and the church didn't really come to this realization until after the election of Pope Benedict XVI, is that a pedophile will always be a pedophile, right? The church was always, okay, well, they've confessed their sin, we will move them so that they won't be around those victims anymore. Christ has changed them. But it's a sickness, it's an illness. 4 out of every 5 victims is male. But, there are adult victims in seminary as well. And so we're going to go into the full extent of what's going on and what can be done based on Catholic law that's set in place. All the information for everything that is needed if the church won't clean it out, the state can. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And look, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, atheist, agnostic, Jewish, whatever, right? Look, I stand with you. As a Catholic, I am appalled, I am angered, I am ashamed that this has happened in my church. Under Pope Benedict XVI, he was making strides in ending this and stopping it, and actual accounts of sexual abuse had plummeted. And then suddenly he just resigns. Pope Francis is elected, and okay, I said I wasn't going to say anything more. Anyway, you're going to have to wait.
Yep.
You're going to have to wait till tomorrow. We're going to go over this. There is so much to cover. And as a Catholic, someone on the inside, there's some information I can share with you about what facilitates this problem, what has allowed it to continue. We would talk about the cover-ups that have happened, the reasons behind those cover-ups, and what we can do. How you can contact your state legislatures and governors and congressmen. There is a solution that the state can do, believe it or not. And it will be very bad on the church. You know what? The church should have cleaned house a long time ago.
Yes.
Law vs. Stone says, I've been following these cases since the early 90s. Yeah. You know, I have a family member that was abused by a priest growing up as a kid. Back in the early 80s. And so, I mean, it didn't affect me. I actually wasn't raised Catholic. My mother left the church and raised me Pentecostal, but I'm Catholic now. And, I mean, so this wasn't something that affected me, like me, but it has affected my family.
I'm glad that we have, in our small town, we have a Pentecostal Catholic priest.
Yeah, charismatics.
Yep, it's they call him. Yeah, I was.
Yep.
Gonna
So
say it.
I'll tell you
Charismatic,
what,
but
some
he's
of the best guys I've ever known were Catholic priests. I remember as a kid, I mean, my grandparents were Catholic, and I go to the Catholic church with them when I lived with them. And they had a priest, it was a Father Mark. Now, he passed away, and he was best friends with my grandpa. But he passed away just, I think, like 3 weeks after my grandpa did. But I remember Father Mark took me and my then stepbrother. We went out canoeing and fishing and spent a lot of time with us. He never did anything inappropriate. He was a good priest. And, I mean, he had such wise words of wisdom to share. He was an amazing priest. He was an amazing priest. There was Father Steve at St. Mary's in Evansville. He was the priest at St. Mary's when I went through RCIA. Father Steve was amazing. So he was what is called a diocesan priest. So he wasn't like a Jesuit or an Augustinian. Like he didn't belong to a specific order. When he was ordained a priest, he was ordained just for that diocese. He was at St. Mary's for over 25 years at the same parish. It is not very common for a priest to be at one church that long.
yeah.
Like
We had one priest in a city above us that was there that long, and then left. And then there were some issues that happened, and that person had to leave because of sexual issues, and now they have a new one, and that happened just about 4 or 5 years ago.
My goodness. So
how's it?
go ahead.
Everything sounds so far, everybody, with everything that's going on? What you're seeing video wise, sound wise? How does it sound this time around? One, if it's okay. Two, if it's not. It looks good. Looks really good, Chris. Leah Resistance, she sat there and she said that it sounds good. One.
I just I know who this is. I just got a text message from an old friend. He just texted me a link to a YouTube video. I'm not going to share it with y'all. I'll check it out and see what it is.
Man, does that sound better? They're still saying I'm pretty loud.
All right. Well, goodness. So we've been live now for about an hour on this third stream for the night. So I guess we haven't really discussed this. The stream it would buffer and then just drop tonight. And then so I just end the stream and then start another one. I don't know what's really going on with that, Kelly. Maybe we fixed it.
Yeah, Maya said that it's still loud. I'm talking really, really soft. So we'll have to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, it could be on your end. It could be either mic placement, but also in Skype.
My mic is over 5 inches away.
I know, but listen, in Tools, we go to your in Tools and then go to Audio, and then in your for audio, you're gonna. The default is where it makes its adjustment itself on the sound, like it's on auto. You want to unselect the auto, and then so it's on manual, and then you're gonna move the volume.
Yeah,
on the bar. Down
I've got it down
about
clear.
halfway.
I've got it down at 9 from 100.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you. So I don't know what to tell you. Let me see. Let me check one more time. On my end, let's see, we are on solo cam, and there you go.
Because I mean, you're up there pretty good. Just
all right.
Because I actually had to like that because you were pretty loud.
I'm gonna
I'm whispering.
I'm gonna play the intro and then the outro, and just let's see how the volume is on that. I'll hit the intro, and then when that one's done, I'll do the outro, and then we'll come back over the chat and see what's going on. All right. So I want to hear what people think about the volume on the intro and the outro.
The intro sounded good to me. And the outro.
It sounded good on your end?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Both were good, says Maya. Good deal. Good deal. Well, we're going to be ending it here in just a little bit because it's now 12:38. Lawbers Stone says, "Oh, I like the beginning, but there's a blank spot between the opening name and the rest. Volume good. A blank. So there was a little blank spot before I went from the intro to the outro. That had to do with the timing of me going from one tab to the next other, the outro tab. Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it's got to go from the beginning.
Right.
The intro goes at the beginning and the outro goes at the end.
Right.
That's the reason why there's a blank spot. They're two different files.
Right. So I've got the opening screen tab, which is that. And then there's the intro, which is the second tab.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and play that again. I am really enjoying it. All right, so that's the that was the intro. And then when we end, we'll go to that outro, which Kellie did. Kellie did that one too. So Kellie, you did a really good job putting the intro and outro together. You're amazing.
Thank you. Anybody wants anything like that type of stuff, I do. So just get a hold of me.
Yep.
Because I lost part of an account, not a whole account, but part of an account.
Yeah. Yep. And then so we're going to have to do a little change up on when we actually play videos, right? So when we go to solo video, that will look like that, and you actually won't be able to see either me or Kellie when we're actually playing a video. You're just going to see the video. Because then when we're doing that, then it's bandwidth, and we're sharing bandwidth for the video, for Skype, and the streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was too much. And then here, this is for articles. This particular one. Let's get us an article going. Let's look up August 16. We'll pull up a news article, and it'll basically be like this. Ooh, I'm having Duluth News. So basically, it'd be a web page, something like that. So when we're going to cover an article,
I did. I sent you an article in regards to a shooting in Pennsylvania.
You did. I did see that you sent that, but I haven't actually looked at it yet. I haven't had an opportunity.
It's really sad. It's really sad. It just happened.
Yeah.
to two officers.
Yep, that's what it's going to look like for now. So we've got a pretty good setup. A big difference is, of course, I'm going to have that gray background when we go live on Fridays. If you look back at our, I think the last couple Chris and Kelly live shows on Fridays, you'll see there's a gray background behind me. It actually takes me a little while to set that up, Kelly.
I know. I've got them.
Not only do I have to, does it take me a while to set it up, but part of that is because I have to get it at just the right distance and, in the right position, left or right, so that it's completely within the webcam, so you're not seeing around it. And, I'm just going to keep using it because I spent a lot of money for it.
Well, like I told you, at some point in time, when you go to change your room, when you go into your new place, I'd be interested.
Yeah, so when I get moved, I'm gonna have there's a 2-bedroom, and there's one bedroom that's basically gonna be where it's gonna be like my studio and office and all that. So I'll have a lot more room, and it'll be separated from everything else.
You'll have to put some cushioning pads, most likely, to stop the kind of cave sound.
Law Resistance says, oh, by the way, So What has left YouTube, but will be on BitChute and D-Link. I think it is too bad, but he has had enough, and I do not blame him. So, yeah, I don't actually blame him at all.
Is he going to still at least keep his YouTube channel to be able to?
Well, yeah, I think what she means is he's not going to be doing YouTube videos. He's going to be he's going to switch. He's going to put his content out on BitChute.
Okay.
And that was actually something you and I had talked about. Eventually moving over to another platform. I mean, YouTube's, I wouldn't say they're in their death throes, but they're pretty gosh darn close. If something doesn't change and there's already new platforms coming up, all it's going to take is enough really good channels to go over, to leave YouTube to go over there, and people will want to watch that content, and they'll start going over there and coming to YouTube less and less, and YouTube will go the way of MySpace. Here's the thing with YouTube is that, and I've said this before, and this isn't any new information. Anybody who's been paying attention knows this. YouTube loses money. They're in the red every year. The only reason they're still able to operate.
That's the reason why Google's taken care of.
Yeah, the only reason is because they get an infusion of cash from their parent company, Google, and I think, what's it called, Alphabet, that owns Google. Yeah, and one more time.
Not exactly sure who owns that, but I know that Google. But I've lost, like I said, half of what I was doing because the one editing that I was doing, I unfortunately lost half. He took his channel. He still got it, but he's not going to upload to it. So I've got to work with just one channel now.
Maya says, I'm tired and have a full day tomorrow. Night, y'all. Good night, Maya. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Night, Maya.
Hit me up when you get time tomorrow. So, one more time, I'm going to show this. Mama Q's. Mama Q's spaghetti sauce. This jar right here that you see, it is canned, it is sealed. This jar will be part of the channel giveaway that we will be doing. I believe we will be announcing it next week exactly what everything is. Kelly, there was some things that you said you were going to look into. We kind of need to know what our
Yeah, I'm looking into, there are some decal stickers that may go onto vehicles or whatever you'd like to put them on. Um, Also t-shirts, button-up kind of denim shirts that may have, it's going to have whatever Chris wants to have in regards to meeting his 200 subscribers with his, channel name
yeah.
and 200 subscriber winner on it, screen printed on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be promoting, it'll be something really nice and whatever design that he decides to send. And we'll be looking at doing something like that. But we will need to know one thing. As soon as
we'll get on
the
that,
person's
Kelly.
pay.
We'll get on that, Kelly. There's gonna be several things in this giveaway, and we don't want to get too far into it, Kelly, right now.
Right. I'm just saying
I know.
we will need a size immediately.
We will. Yeah, we'll handle that. We'll go over. We'll put out a video or a live stream, something, and here in the next, I'd say less than a week, probably.
Yes.
We'll put something out and we'll have the giveaway. But I'm gonna need some information from you, Kelly,
Yep.
on some of that. And once I have that information, then we will be looking at getting this started. This whole giveaway started for our subscribers. Hopefully, we can even bring in some new subscribers. People watching, hey, you'll be definitely doing the channel a lot of good if you share it on, Facebook and Twitter and, get the
All
word
your
out.
media platforms.
Yeah. Law vs. Stone says, do not give away Trump stickers. Must keep the audience safe. No, not Trump stickers. So, we were talking about doing, basically auto decals, with our channel logo, which is that. That is what will be on, a sticker or, a shirt or a mug or, whatever exactly it is that's going to be in this giveaway. I'm not going to give everything away.
Yep.
But that will basically be it. There'll be more to it than that. There'll be some stuff added to that. But that is basically what we're looking at. Of course, I'm sure we'll add the channel URL, which reminds me I need to go ahead and change the URL for the channel. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I need to go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Before we do this. I mean, it's no biggie, but it just needs to be, instead of the URL that it is now, it just needs to be, youtube.com/Chris Holman. Instead of what it is now.
Okay.
All right, 2 hours. We're at 2 hours now. Well, Kelly, it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not tired, and I could go live forever, but I know not everybody else is wide awake like me, and I suspect you're starting to get a little tired too, maybe.
No, I'm actually still wide
Are you?
awake.
All right.
Yep. But I know that other people are getting tired and they want to go, but we can talk
Well, you know,
here a
we
little
can
bit later, you know, after.
we can. I mean, if some of our viewers, you know, need to go, I mean, we were basically just doing a sound test today. But I mean, we can stay live and keep going, and other people can come in, and we can just keep, you know, shooting the breeze.
Les Resistance says, keep going.
Well, I guess we're gonna keep going because La Resistance says so. She's the boss.
I love that name. I just absolutely love that name.
How did she get that little? I can't remember what it's called, but it's above the E. That, you know, the French and the Spanish both do those. How did she get that? Like,
you have to push down on your key on your letter E, and then it'll bring up all the different E's that are in the different languages. And then you slide over and pick it. And normally you can do that on your phone, tablet. If you're doing it on your desktop, it's kind of difficult because you have to switch over to French or Spanish to do it.
That doesn't. What you just said doesn't work. So I got my cursor. I've got my cursor in, you know, into the chat. And you said press the E and hold it. I just get a bunch of E's.
Right. Format
Right.
for translation
Right.
to be able to get it.
Okay. What just happened?
I have it on my tablet and on my phone that all I have to do is push and it brings up the number, and if it's on the top row of my keyboard, it'll bring up the number, and it'll also bring up the letter, and it'll bring it up in different languages.
Yeah. Now
Oh,
the screen
there's a
went
black screen.
Yeah, don't be alarmed. Don't be alarmed. I'm finding something that I think we should take a look at. I just need to find it. Yeah, don't be alarmed by the black screen. It's okay. Don't be alarmed by it.
Okay, since I've moved my mic away and I'm talking softer, even softer than I was, am I still super loud? Do you guys? Les Resistance, can you let me know?
Oh, we're playing a video. Hold on. Low Resistance sent this. Remember, we had this in another Chris and Kelly live.
Yes, I loved it.
This is all right. Okay, Kelly. We can talk. We're done. We're done with the little law resistance. Yeah, I really do like that. That is just the most awesomest little law resistance video.
Mm-hmm.
Viva la France. Viva la resistance. I need a sword, right? Well, hold on. I actually do have. Sword, but it's not a perp. It's not a.
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
It's one of those faux Japanese. Like it's not even sharp. I don't even know why I have it. I'm getting hungry.
Hobbit's coming out.
So I've got some drumsticks in the I've got some drumsticks in the refrigerator.
That's what we
Yeah, some chicken
ate.
chicken legs in the refrigerator to unthaw. I think I'm gonna make fried chicken tomorrow. I think.
Mm.
I mean, I'm cooking it tomorrow. I just don't know. Am I gonna do fried chicken or am I gonna do baked chicken, grilled chicken? I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. But I'm thinking fried chicken.
Cordon bleu.
But if I do fried chicken, I gotta get eggs. I don't have any good eggs.
Oh my word. I have like 4 dozen right now.
Mm-hmm. So
And
oh,
I'm not joking.
4
I've
dozen
probably
eggs?
given 10.
4 dozen eggs? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I have like 4 dozen eggs and I've given like 10 away. My chickens bring eggs out of them like crazy.
I guess you need to do like 6 egg omelets every morning for breakfast.
I'm actually gonna start separating, like do some whites and the yolks, and then I'm gonna do eggs and the yolk with the white and the yolks. I'm actually gonna freeze them because you can freeze them, unthaw them, and use them for cooking.
Right. So we've got 5 still watching, so we're good. I mean, here it is, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're live. I say that's pretty good. I'd say that's pretty good. So, let's see. You want to play another video?
Sure.
You know, there was a topic I wanted to talk about. I've actually touched on it one time in one of my balcony chats, I believe. Is how so you've got, you know, believers, right? Christians, you know, we believe God created the universe, right? And so then you've got these atheists and these, and they have rejected that, but yet they've replaced. Many of them are beginning to replace it with this whole multiverse idea. But it even has gone further than that. Now many of them are starting to push this whole simulated reality, that we are living in a simulation. So it's too far for them to believe that God created everything. But it's perfectly reasonable to think that we are in a computer simulation created by some pimple-faced nerd. That this is not the one real reality. We're one of however many, simulated realities down a chain of simulated realities. Crazy. La Resistance is talking about Australia here. Let's see. So she says, I'm wide awake. I'm in Canada now, but on Aussie time. Are you guys interested in covering some Aussie news, in particular the big Sudanese gang problem here? Also, Australia to go full 5G in a couple of months. They are also seeking to outlaw anti-vaxxers. Oh my gosh. Australia is one big beta test. Yeah, we could. La Resistance, and this goes to anybody watching. If you have a news story or a video or anything that you would like us to cover, you can email it to me. I'll put my email address in the chat again. But
I put my email up earlier.
So email it to me. That is maddogs.
I also put my email up earlier, so if they want to.
Okay. Yeah, so just email it to maddogs424@gmail.com. Anybody, La Resistance, anyone, any stories that you have that you would like to bring to my attention, or any questions, or whatever it is, you can reach me at that email address. You can also follow me on Twitter. That is at Chris Holman 424. That is my Twitter thing. Law Resistance says, who is the best person to email it to? Yeah, you should email it to me, La Resistance. If you have a story or anything, just email it to me. So, okay, so Kelly, we're giving her conflicting information. Just email it to me. Just send it to me. It doesn't. It doesn't have to go through more than just one person. You can just email it to me directly, and I'll take a look at it. Are you still there, Kelly?
Yes, I am.
Kelly, you want to go back to that California State Senate video? You want to go back to that?
Sure.
Are you all right, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Senator Anderson, Senator Morrell.
Thank you, Madam President. A question to the author, please.
Senator Weiner, who is the floor jockey, would you be willing to take a question?
Yes.
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, sir. My understanding from you is on this bill, if we that it's not going to affect the Bible. Is that correct? At churches. What if a pastor or a counselor recommends the Bible and sells a Bible to someone being helped, and there's an exchange of money? Is that counselor then liable for selling that Bible and pointing out chapter 1 of Romans? Or if a church bookstore sells a book, how to counsel people out of homosexuality, whether a book by an author or a Bible, is that consumer fraud?
The bill does not prohibit the sale of books or Bibles, doesn't prohibit people from talking to their priest. What it prohibits is someone saying, I'm a counselor, I'm going to sell you a service to make you not gay, and saying that is fraudulent, which it is, because there's no scientific basis that works. But no, it does not prohibit the sale of books.
Can you also refer me to the bill, the paragraph on that? And forgive me, I read through that, but can you give me the page and a paragraph of the bill on that, where that specific language is in there, because I've got a lot of pastors asking me that question.
Yeah, I need to look at this and get you the site, but there were amendments taken specifically around the Bible. This does not prohibit the sale of books or Bibles.
And around churches and counselors, Christian counselors also.
As long as they are not charging the person money for the services, you can go talk to your priest or a counselor or anyone else you want to. But this is about saying that if you sell fraudulent services that have no scientific basis, that's fraud. Just like we would say a doctor who says,
I got that.
Let him finish,
You're all
Senator
clear
Morrell.
now. What I'm trying to get to.
Senator Morrell, you asked him a question. Please let him finish.
Okay.
Just
I'm
like
just trying to get to the point. I just want to know where
just like-
Let him finish.
just like we would say if a doctor said, I can wave my magic wand and do X, Y, or Z fake treatment on you, we would say that's fraud as well, and that's what this is about.
Okay, but what I'd like to know is the page, paragraph where it's at before we vote on this, if that's possible.
We'll provide that.
Just
to
for
you.
clarification. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator Morrell. Senator Stern.
I just wanted to stand in solidarity with my colleague from San Francisco in support of this bill. We went through this extensively in committee. He iterated the point, but I'll reiterate. I've had many pastors, rabbis, folks in the faith community reach out, concerned that this is somehow going to inhibit your right to preach, your right to speech, your right to seek counsel, however flawed in some cases that counsel may be. But you can still seek that counsel. But it is the sale of counsel. It is the sale of a Bible that we're talking about. Now, this bill does not prevent practices to otherwise promote healthy and romantic relationships. It does not include psychotherapies that provide acceptance, support, and understanding of clients, and the facilitation of clients copying these networks. And I don't know much about Bibles because I was raised Jewish, but I don't know that Bible sales are actually the most prominent way that people distribute that information. If folks are using mass quantities of marketing materials and building a business model based on an industry, that's to me what this bill is targeting here. Folks can have their relationship with God, with their religious counsel, but we cannot condone a business practice and a for-profit industry that is based on a system that has no scientific basis. With that, I respectfully ask for all of your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Stern. Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Madam President and members. And I rise in opposition to this bill, and I think it goes way beyond a business practice. I think it's an outright violation of the First Amendment, the freedom of association, the freedom of speech. And if you are an individual and you're questioning your sexuality, you ought to have the ability to speak to whoever you want to speak to. You ought to be able to pay for that service if you feel that that is necessary. So I'm very concerned from a constitutional standpoint that First Amendment rights are being violated as a result of this legislation, and that we aren't really taking a serious look at that aspect. I'd be willing to bet that this ends up in the courts and there will be a court challenge to this legislation because of that violation. Why shouldn't I have the ability to speak to who I want to speak, to seek the counsel from whoever I want to seek the counsel, to pay for that counseling, to determine what I want to do with my life as it relates to sexuality? And it could be either way. If you're in a position where you want that you're a gay and you want counseling, you're having those feelings of being gay, and you're having you want counseling to help you with that transition, that's great. But it ought to go both ways. If you're gay and you're thinking, well, maybe I'm not, shouldn't I be able to seek that counsel with whoever I want to talk to and have that freedom? So on that basis, that is the real challenge that I have with this legislation, that we are a nation of freedom. We are a nation of freedom of speech. We are a nation where we can self-direct.
So, come over here and see what. Let's see what we got. So I've got to enlarge. I need to start using my. I need to start using my laptop to be able to, so I can view the chat instead of trying to do it on one screen, which is what I had initially had intended to do when we started using this. Kelly, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
All right. So what are your views on what we just watched? What we just looked at?
I think it's absolutely despicable because, I mean, in order to sell anything, and even giving the word of God out, it has to be printed.
Right.
Nobody's going to print it for free.
Right.
So it's got to be, sold. They're not going to give it out for nothing. And it's the same word that happens with congressional stuff. It's printed. That somebody's got to be paid to print that.
Right. So I do not. They're saying, "Oh, it's not going to ban the Bible, and it's not going to." I'm telling you, they will. They're going to use this to ban the Bible. Watch it. They say
Already,
it won't. They're saying
they banned
it
it from the schools already.
Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to ban the Bible from the whole state of California. Watch. I see it coming. Even if this particular bill won't do it, I believe that it's moving in that direction. This Law Resistance says this is what the whole LGBT agenda is all about: a veil to remove Christianity. Yeah. Yep.
I agree.
So, I mean, there's a big difference between LGBT activists and the LGBT agenda and people who are, lesbian or gay or, whatever. There's a big difference because not everyone who is a lesbian or who is gay is pushing for this stuff, right? There are gay men who are conservative. There are transgenders who are conservative. You got them right here on YouTube.
Yep.
There's several of them. Blair White is one. For instance, she's transgendered. It has never had.
Why, Russ? They're homosexual, and I know them. Not there's another one, I can't think of his name right now, but he's homosexual and married to his significant other. So if they can allow that to be on YouTube, then why are they censoring us so bad? And I mean, look at it. Why can't they just let California fall off and be its own organization, group, whatever it wants to be?
Right. Oh. Come on now, dogs. Don't do this now. Well, I did say I was hungry, Kelly. I did say I was hungry. maybe if I don't look at her, she won't bark. Oh my goodness. I think we're gonna have to go ahead and cut this here. Here in just a minute, Kelly. My dogs. Be quiet now. Get your mummy dog. Get your mummy dog. Madison. Is it legal to eat dogs?
In certain countries.
Not here, though, right? Get your devil dog. Madison. Be quiet now. I caught you. All right. Let's see now. Let's go ahead. There you go. This is the dog that you were just hearing. This is Madison.
Aww.
She is very demanding. She runs this house. She does. She runs. She gets what she wants when she wants it, because if she don't get it, she nags until she gets it. Just saying. So she is half Chihuahua and half Yorkie. She doesn't look like a Chorkie. She looks all Chihuahua. You look at her.
A large Chihuahua.
Yeah. She is about 8 pounds.
Wow. I had a teacup one.
She's the size of an infant. She's a little bitty thing. Oh my goodness. And then the other dog, this. Madison. This is Bella. That is Bella, and Bella is half Yorkie and half Jack Russell. When her hair gets kind of long, she looks more like a teddy bear or an Ewok.
I love Ewoks.
I've been, for the last couple years, I've been wanting to get an Ewok costume for Halloween for her, for Bella. It would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. Heck, I'd leave her in it all year long if I could. They'd get tore up though. All right, I guess we will. Let's go back to this. Let's go back to this video. Let's watch a little bit more of it.
And certainly, we can also seek guidance from God through this whole process. But even as a non-believing American, we should have the ability to seek the counsel that we think is fit for our particular needs. And for that reason, I am in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gaines. Senator Galgiani.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the member of the LGBT caucus who came out much later in life, I think that I can share a much different perspective about this. And first of all, I want to thank all of my colleagues on the floor, both Democrats and Republicans, for being so accepting of me when I did come out, because when you knew me in the Assembly, I didn't even know for myself that I was gay. It took me much longer to figure it out when I didn't have work as the only thing that was in my life, and I started to realize what I wanted for my future. it's a very painful process coming out to those that you know and that you love, because they have known you in a certain way all of your life, and there's this assumption that you're going to be like everybody else, and that someday you're going to have a husband or a wife, and you struggle to figure out how to tell everybody one at a time that you're different and that you've chosen something else for your life. It's a very threatening, scary process, and everyone in our LGBT caucus has gone through that process in a different way, whether they're older or younger. And you see us here in the caucus, and we speak about the fact that we are gay, and we talk about bills and all of that, but I just want to remind you that going through that process is a very scary thing. What this bill is about is conversion therapy, not just therapy, but the word conversion. And conversion means that there's an ultimate goal and an outcome. And the goal and the outcome of this kind of therapy is that the person who believes that they are gay or who is questioning that will ultimately then make the decision for themselves that, okay, I can be not gay. I can change who I think I am or who I'm questioning that I am. Let me tell you, it is much easier to fit in and be like everybody else. When somebody finally reaches the point where they're questioning and they think that they are gay, they've gone through so much turmoil in their own mind and in their own heart. The most difficult thing to admit is to admit to yourself that you're gay, because you know that you're going to face being ostracized by people that you know and love. You wonder if they'll still accept you, though. You wonder if they'll treat you the same. So by the time you reach that point where you're wanting to talk to a therapist or somebody about it, you need love and support and respect for who you are. What you don't need is for someone to try to change you and tell you that you shouldn't be who you are, because the process is about being honest with yourself and honest with the people that you love. So again, I don't expect people to fully understand, but the word conversion, it defines an outcome. It means that you go through the therapy so that you can become ungay.
What is wrong with that? If someone has been gay and decides they don't want to be gay anymore, shouldn't they be able to seek that help? Look, I'm telling you, yes, people can be born gay, but people can also choose to be gay. And so, you need to be able to differentiate that. And let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. That through the power of Christ, one can be healed of perversions, whether it be homosexuality or whether it be porn addictions, whether it be addictions to substances, drugs, or alcohol. God can heal you. Right? Through the power of Christ, you can be healed of those things. And this is essentially going to deny that. To think that this is only going to stop at counseling and therapy is naive. This is going to go into the churches itself, and this is where it's leading. Churches, it's going to lead to where churches will no longer be able to speak out against homosexuality. It's going to get to where, I do believe you're not going to be able to sell the Bible or Christian, specifically Christian religious material that is seen as, anti-gay, right? Which is simply just speaking the truth. Speaking the truth. Are you awake, Kelly?
Yeah. I just mute myself when it's playing. But it's crazy. I mean, they make copies of the Constitution and they sell it. So are they going to stop printing the Constitution and and selling that? Of course, most likely, because they're going to be taking away our freedom of speech. They're going to be taking away our Second Amendments at some point. They're going to try to, definitely.
I'm sure there's many in California that would just love to see the Constitution get ripped to shreds and disappear. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. So let's come over here, see what we got. Let me make this bigger so I can see the chat. Romans 1:24. Therefore God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity for the degrading of their bodies with one another. Got to go. Bye, everyone. Bye, Hilton. Thanks for coming. Sanhar says, doesn't sound honest to me. Sounds as though she's lying to herself. She needs shrinks.
Most of them are, because they've been abused.
She wasn't born that way. She chose it. She said so herself, or admit that you are wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a load of crap. Yeah. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. Men received in themselves the due penalty for their error. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another, men committing shameful acts with others. Yeah. You know, just as I said earlier, like, I mean, if someone is gay, like, fine, be gay. I mean, I'm not going to tell someone else, you know, and that they can't live the life that they choose, right? But I'm not going to admit that it's right or that it's normal or natural. You know? And no one needs my validation, right? Or no one needs my approval for their validation. Like, I don't need someone else's approval to validate who I am. I mean, you don't, Kelly, right? I mean,
right.
So you have a homestead, right?
Right.
You have a homestead. You raise animals. Say, I mean, you don't need the approval of say vegans, right, to validate the lifestyle you've chosen for yourself and your family. If someone doesn't like it, then
Exactly.
Fine, whatever. Then don't come visit Kelly and, you know, see her pigs. You know, don't come and, you know, eat the food that she's grown on her homestead. I mean, according to God, you are not.
Yeah, don't ask to ride my horses when kids like the red horses.
Law Resistance says, according to God, you are not born that way. I know who I believe. So, I mean, I don't know. So, I do believe some people are, maybe even, maybe not are, but maybe they are. But I think the vast majority, they've just given themselves over to perversions. They may just be, you know, low testosterone men that are a little effeminate, and they just they give into it, or they're preyed upon by older gay men that just kind of pushes them over that edge into accepting that lifestyle. You know, I had a friend who was gay. He was gay, and for the sake of Christ, he lived and lives a celibate lifestyle. For the sake of Christ, he neither entered into a homosexual relationship, nor did he enter into a straight relationship, because he saw that that would be wrong, right? He didn't see that he could be attracted to or could love a woman. So it would be wrong then to try to live, for him, he felt it would be wrong to try to live a straight lifestyle as well. So he saw himself as a gay man who was celibate for Christ. You know, I can't fault him. I can't fault him. God does say you can change. Yeah, you can. You can.
That's right.
We can there's many things about ourselves that we ourselves can change, and that which we cannot change, God himself can. God can move in our hearts. God can with his healing hand, he can heal us. You know, I'm gonna say this here, and it's a retraction, and I'm gonna say at the beginning of our stream tomorrow, our actual official stream. So in last Friday's, I believe it was Wednesdays. When was that? When was the last time we went live, Kelly?
We went Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, and I had to bounce out.
I'm trying to remember. Well, anyway, went live, and I had mentioned well, let me read this and then I'll get back to it. The fact that they want to pass this bill is essentially telling every person who thinks they are gay that they are not allowed to choose what they want to be, which is the opposite of what their agenda is. Yes. So I had mentioned a Latin phrase, and I had the wrong translation for it. So I had said that Deus ex machina was Latin for the hand of God. I was actually wrong. That is Latin for God from the machine, or God out of the machine, which is not what I would want to say. The hand of God in Latin is... Give me a second. What was that? Manus Domine Dei is Latin for the hand of God. It doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well, but that is what is the hand of God in Latin. The hand of God. Manus Domini Dei. The hand of God. The voice of God, what was that? It was Vox. I think it was Vox Dei or Vox Deus. I think it was Vox Dei, I believe, was the voice of God in Latin. You know what? So I love the Latin language. Kelly, have you spent much time looking up Latin phrases?
Yes, I have.
You have?
But for me to remember them, because of the way they're pronounced, is very difficult.
Right. So as far as in everyday life, Latin is not a language people really speak, but it's really a misnomer to call it a dead language, because it's still alive and well in the Catholic Church. There's the Latin Mass that is still said. It's not every Mass, but there is still a Latin Mass. It's not entirely a dead language. I would invite anyone out there to learn as much as you can about the Latin language. It's kind of a difficult language to learn. I'm not saying to learn to become fluent, but at least learn some Latin phrases. It'll actually help you to understand the Bible. The Bible originally was translated from Greek and Hebrew into Latin.
Right.
And so if you look up what specific words mean, and whether it be in Latin or in Greek or in Hebrew, It kind of helps to give some insight into the Scripture. So I do invite you to, anyone watching this, if you really want to have a kind of a deeper understanding of the Word of God, look into learning at least a little bit about Latin and Greek and Hebrew, those three languages. I'm
I
fascinated.
actually have a Bible in Hebrew.
Do you? Good.
Hmm.
Yeah. Law Resistance Stone says, this is where our real fight is. I'm going to give up law and pursue the fight for Christianity. Wow. Praise
Amen.
God. Amen. So I think I'm going to leave that video there. It is now 1:40, and
That's a bit. Yeah, that's a video we need to go into more depth and look at tomorrow.
I think we do at some point for sure. But it is now 20 minutes till 2.